Hi everyone, my name is Alexis Lawrence. My presentation is on the misrepresentation of multicultural literature and the effects on children. That within multicultural literature, an issue faced by librarians and educators are the stereotypes, misconceptions, and omissions of race and gender present in literature and illustration and these effects on children. The focus of my research was on exploring works that looked at changes in children's literature, how the use of multicultural literature affects gender and race roles. I wanted to focus on the effects eliminating misconceptions and stereotypes can have on children, how teachers can promote more cultural awareness, and their ability to identify multicultural material. Throughout a lot of the research and articles, I looked at educators and librarians have to take a look at their own experiences and beliefs, that they need to look at their own biases, experiences about gender and race in order to be able to effectively approach students and children. That within the article by Dr. Willard Hall, she looked at ways to identify culturally authentic books using guidelines for selecting bias-free textbooks and storybooks. And that some of the things that were considered when choosing a book is the use of multiple literature. That many of the articles discussed how the use of more than one book to help represent a group is better at providing a picture for students in general, and that we want to look at the roles that they have the children playing as far as like the characters being portrayed in the stories, and that you want them to be portrayed in a variety of different ways, not just in this general stereotypes that most women prior to 1970 were portrayed as inferior to men, that they had many submissive roles, that men were limited to roles of being fearless and brave, women were more passive, and the idea that we have to look at when you think about gender roles, that not just women, but men were stigmatized by this as well, that men weren't able to see themselves as the, emotional type, that there were 4 times as many boys represented in stories than girls, and that when we present this information to children and provide them with children's literature, that we have to understand that stereotypes and generalizations generally feature middle class white families, and that this doesn't match up with the average classroom, and that statistics show that in 2006 there was over 20 million children 18 and under living in single parent homes, and that there were 2.5 million grandparents who were raising their grandchildren. So when we present children with information, we want them to be able to relate to what they're reading. And if it's not accurate depiction of what's in the classroom, then we're not providing them with a decent amount of information. And that some effects stereotypes can have is that females learn that their identity or experience has no place in history or literature, and that if children are not able to find themselves in literature, they are less engaged or interested in reading, providing the message that school is for someone else and not them, because they can't find themselves in the books that they're being given. Through an article by Boston and Baxley, they discuss gender roles, and that adolescent females as a whole experience a loss of voice, self-confidence, and positive feelings about themselves, and they seek identification and acceptance with specific groups. And the idea that some positive results to changing multicultural literature would be that when women were placed in traditional male roles, that both men and females were able to have an increased belief that women could actually portray these roles, and that through the use of multicultural literature, children are able to receive positive self-affirmation about themselves and their culture. They will be able to connect with the text, that by challenging privileged majority, that these middle class white families, that these children are able to emphasize with the underrepresented cultures, that they have a better understanding of tolerance, diversity, and respect for everyone. That by providing them with multicultural literature, it promotes children to read. Promoting cultural identity, it builds self esteem. They have an ability to express their pride and prevent stereotypes from forming. That some of the limitations that are presented and challenges that teachers and educators face is that their own viewpoints and their approach to the situation within the classroom. That teachers need to be aware of that their language and how they present gender roles, that they want to allow men to be able to understand that they can be a nurse just as well as a female, and that a female can be a pilot just as well as a male can. That teachers have to be willing to address topics that may be uncomfortable to them, such as privilege, power, and history. That they want to challenge the stereotypes presented within literature or biases that are present if they do present material that has it within the literature. That in studies, it shows that teachers have to be aware of their knowledge of different multicultural materials in reading. Through the article by Hazza and Butcher, they express that in a study done, there was 23% who actually read an Arab book, and out of that 23%, only less than 1% use it in their actual classroom. That librarians and educators need to understand the effects that this type of literature has on children, and that there are several positive benefits through incorporating this material at an early age.